हृदयुकमलं मध्ये निर्विशेषं निरीहं हरिहरविद्वैद्यं योगिभिर्ध्यानगम्यं जननमरणभीतिभ्रंशि सच्चित्स्वरूपं सकलभुवनबीजं ब्रह्मचैतन्यमीडे from Mahanirvana Tantra. In the lotus of my heart, I contemplate the divine intelligence, the Brahman without distinction and difference, who is the object of realization to even the creator, protector and destroyer of the universe, whom the yogis attain through meditation, who destroys the fear of birth and death, and whose existence, consciousness, and the source of all creation. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace be unto all. This morning our subject is meditation according to Gita. In the beginning, I shall tell you a little brief description about the Bhagavad Gita. Gita means song. Bhagavad Gita means song of God. It is not an ordinary song. It is a very special song. It is a sum of life with beautiful language and profound philosophy and tremendous Catholicity. Gita is a non-sectarian scripture. All sects of Hinduism accept the message of Gita. Gita is the quintessence of Vedanta. It is the science of Brahman, the scripture of yoga, and the dialogue between God and man. Gita talks about harmony of religions. When this Gita was taught, there was no Buddhism, no Christianity, no Islam. During Krishna's time, there are two schools of philosophy were rivals. They are fighting for their supremacy. The Mimamsa school, the ritualistic school of Jaimini, and Vedanta philosophical school of Vyasa. Krishna did not disturb any of those schools. He made an arch. Do not fight. Unite both schools with love and reach God. The war of the Gita is symbolic. It is a war between good and evil, righteousness and unrighteousness. The unrighteous party had 100 brothers, 11 million soldiers. The righteous party had 5 brothers and 7 million soldiers. Now the question arises, who will win? Truth or untruth? Righteousness or unrighteousness? It was a decisive battle. Mundaka Upanishad tells us truth alone triumphs, not untruth. Some Western people misunderstand Krishna and the Gita. They say, what kind of God is this who is instigating his disciples to fight war? A spiritual person is supposed to talk about peace. And what kind of scripture is the Gita, which is in the perspective of the Gita, of the war? Those people do not know the whole history of the Mahabharata. Krishna did not want to join any of the parties. When he was persuaded, he gave his army to the unrighteous party and himself joined with righteous party on condition that I shall not touch any weapon. I may be a counselor, that's all. So Arjuna requested, you be my charioteer. And Krishna agreed. He became Partha Sarathi. God becomes the charioteer. We hope he should be the charioteer of all of our lives so that he can control us, guide us, and show us the right direction as he did to Arjuna. Gita is not a martial song or a message of war. If so, it would be read in the cantonment. On the other hand, millions of people read Gita for spiritual instruction, for liberation, for enlightenment. Gita was composed at the battlefield. The battlefield is an ideal place to teach Vedanta. Why? Battlefield is a good place to teach Vedanta. When a person comes to the battlefield, he does not have any attachment, he does not have any fear. These two things are great obstacles, attachment and fear. If you are attached to your home and family, you cannot come to the battlefield. And if you have fear of death, you cannot come to the battlefield. So that is the best time to teach Vedanta. Such a person without body consciousness is a right student of Vedanta. Battlefield. In the battlefield, if you lose a leg or a hand, it is all right. But if you lose your mind, you will never win. For the reason you will find media or sometimes they encourage the people, those who are frontline soldiers, they must be inspired. Otherwise they cannot move forward. Arjuna lost his mind. He had two basic problems. All we have those two basic problems: fear and confusion. We live in fear. If you have body, fear of death. If you have beauty, fear of losing beauty. If you have money, fear of losing money. Everywhere you feel some kind of uncertainty and fear. Arjuna saw in front of him Bhishma, Drona, all the great generals and great warriors, and all of a sudden he got scared. Fear came. Then came confusion. What shall I do? When we get confused, sometimes out of fear, what we do, we try to escape. And he tried to escape. Shriyo bhaktum bhaikshyamapi holoke. I rather become a mendicant than to fight. What is the reason of this fight? To kill my friends and relatives, my guru, my grandfather, I will have to fight against them. It is not right. I better be a monk. Krishna says it does not look good. You have all the weapons in your hand and you dress like an warrior, and now you say that you want to be a monk. It is hypocrisy. If you see a monk with revolver and rifle, AK, and a grenade in hand, and he is telling, I am a spiritual person, we do not trust that spiritual person. So what did Krishna do? He removed those two basic problems, fear and confusion. Sometimes we are indecisive. We do not know what is right, what is wrong. Swami Vivekananda gave a beautiful example about right and wrong. Friend, that which will make you strong, that is right. The thing which will make you weak, that is wrong. I sometimes say you don't need Encyclopedia Britannica to understand what is right and wrong. Which make you strong, that is right. When you do right, your conscience says you did right. When you do wrong, your conscience says you did wrong. So, listen to your conscience, indwelling self. Next, each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is a yoga which unites us with God. The first chapter of the Gita is called Vishada Yoga, the chapter of despondency, sorrow, grief. And the last chapter is called Moksha Yoga, chapter on liberation. Gita consists 18 chapters like 18 steps to reach the goal. Vishada Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. In this way, one step after another. As I said, sometimes we cannot decide properly what is our duty. Krishna said to Arjuna, you belong to a Kshatriya caste. Your duty is to protect people from unrighteousness. These people are unrighteous. And if you do not fight, what will happen? Unrighteousness will prevail in the society and it will bring chaos. Swami Vivekananda made a remark. Do you know why are we good? Because of the police. If there is no police in town, there will be a murder, all type break, everything, the whole city will be in chaos. So you must protect the society, good people. But fight, but don't keep any enmity. How is it possible that I shall fight and I shall not keep any enmity against anybody? It is possible. You eat, but don't be gluttonous. You sleep, but don't be lazy. That is the secret. Gita is a very inspiring scripture. I sometimes call it they who are depressed. Seek what Krishna says. Klidvam asmagama partha nuitatva upapaidate shudram hridayo daurbolyam taktat tishta parantapa. Swami Vivekananda loved this verse from the Gita. It is in the second chapter. Give up this unmanliness, O Arjuna. It does not befit you. Get up, arise and fight. Take your responsibility on your shoulder. Your disciplined mind is your friend. Your indisciplined mind is your enemy. Do not blame for your misfortune on others. Krishna told Arjuna the signs of an illumined soul in the second chapter of the Gita. Krishna says, don't worry about afterlife. Just fix your mind in me. Then you will live in me. Krishna cautions in the second chapter of the Gita. There are 7 steps of degradation. Be careful. If you think of worldly things, lustful objects, you will grow attachment. When you are attached, your desire will be very powerful. If somebody stops your desire, you become angry. And when you are angry, you get deluded. You cannot, when you are angry, we are really confused. We do not know what we are doing. And when delusion comes, we lose our memory. Memory means we get all the wisdom, knowledge we learned from our teachers. And loss of memory brings destruction of discrimination. Work incessantly, but don't be attached. Work. Work is it's a great medicine, I tell you frankly. Krishna says, I work. If I do not work, this whole world will disintegrate. Nai koshit shanamapi jatu tishthuti akarma krit. No human beings can live in this world without action. We are working. God of the Gita is the absolute Brahman, God, avatar, and again very human with love, compassion and feeling. Ramakrishna commented about Gita. If you repeat Gita 10 times, Gita, 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 it becomes tagi, tagi, tagi. Just it becomes reverse. That means renounce, renounce, renounce. Gita teaches non-attachment. Attachment brings pain. Non-attachment brings happiness. Gita is the part of the Mahabharata. It consists of 700 verses. And Krishna sang 574 verses. Mahatma Gandhi said, the Gita answers all my difficulties and has been my guide, my open sesame, in hundreds of moments of doubt and difficulty. I cannot recall a single instance when it has failed. It has become my dictionary of daily reference. I turn to this dictionary of conduct for a ready solution of all my troubles and trials. Today, the Gita is not only my Bible or my Quran. It is more than that. It is my mother. That is my introduction. Next phase, the necessity of meditation. Human beings are generally utilitarian. Before they do anything, they ask, what shall I gain from it? What shall I achieve by practicing meditation? I remember one Japanese girl asked me, Swami, why should I meditate? I answered, why do you eat? Well, I eat because I need food. Food brings me strength. If I do not eat, I shall become weak. I said, if you do not meditate, you will be weak. Food brings strength in the physical body, and meditation will strengthen your mind. Meditation is very important. Which one do you prefer? Weak body and strong mind, or strong or weak mind and strong body? It's a very good question. You have a very strong, powerful body, but you are stupid. Or perhaps you have schizophrenia. Your mind is not right. Whether mind is important or body is important. I better have a very good mind than a then a strong, of course we need both. It is common experience of the meditator that regular meditation reduces tension and temper, worry and anxiety, fear and unsecured feeling, frustration and dissatisfaction. Thus it cures various kinds of mental problems. Third, for the sake of physical health, one should practice meditation daily. Swami Brahmananda used to say, it soothes the nervous system, controls the cardiovascular and digestive system. A meditator encounters less disease than the non-meditator. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad tells us, na tasya rogu, na jara, na mrityu, praptasya yogagnimayam shariram. When a person practices meditation, his body becomes saturated with yogagni, the fire of yoga. That means God consciousness. At that time, he transcends disease, sickness, old age, death. Regular meditation gives us peace of mind. Krishna says, in that serenity, there is an end of sorrow. For the intelligence of the man of serene mind soon becomes steady. The man whose mind is not under his control has no self-knowledge and no contemplation either. Without contemplation, he can have no peace. And without peace, how can he have happiness? Meditation is a kind of mental exercise. As physical exercise increases physical strength, so meditation increases mental strength. You see, we do not see Brahman, consciousness, but we can see the manifestation of consciousness in the body, in the psychophysical system. We do not see electricity, but we see the manifestation of electricity. Light, computer, microphone, all these things are working because of electricity behind. So, Atman manifests in the buddhi, intellect, as the power of wisdom, Jnana Shakti. It manifests in the mind as Ichha Shakti, power of will. It manifests in the physical body, Kriya Shakti, power of action. Power of action, power of will, and power of wisdom. These three powers manifest in the physical body because consciousness is at background. It enhances that power. Sometimes if you really meditate, you can see, you will develop sixth sense. You see, we perceive the world through the five senses. Through the eyes, through the ears, through the nose, through the mouth, and through the skin. These are the five organs of knowledge. But if you meditate, you will develop a sixth sense. You can monitor something coming in future. It is just like AWACS plane. They can see the enemies from a very distant place, several hundred miles away. So yogi's mind, when any bad thought, bad vibration comes, they can monitor and can stop before it arrives to him. Meditation helps. Meditation increases concentration, which is the only source of knowledge. A man, through concentration, can do maximum work in minimum time. Sometimes we see some people can work very fast and some people are very slow. Why? The difference is the concentration. Swami Vivekananda met a yogi named Pauhari Baba in Ghazipur, which is 50 miles from Benares. He learned from the yogi, Yan Sadhan Tan Siddhi. The concentration he used to clean his brass pot, same concentration he used for his meditation. And Sri Ramakrishna learned from his guru. Well, why? You are a knower of Brahman, why do you meditate? Pavhari Baba said, a brass pot, if you do not clean every day, there will be stain. So I clean every day. So that is the reason I meditate. Then Sri Ramakrishna gave an answer. But if that pot is made of gold, then you will not have to clean every day. Gold always glitters. Meditation illumines the mind, which clears up confusion and various kinds of misunderstanding in interpersonal relationship. It creates a beautiful atmosphere and feeling. It really reduces anger, bad temper, sensitivity, and ego. I sometimes tell people, my teacher used to give this illustration. Here is a piece of iron rod. It is cold, it is dark. If you put into the fire, and as you have seen, the blacksmith pulls the bellows, that iron rod becomes a red hot iron. It can burn your hand. It becomes red and it has the power to burn. Iron rod cannot burn, but because of the association of the fire, it becomes red hot. Similarly, when the mind is connected with God, with the Atman, it becomes luminous. And when the mind becomes luminous, what happens? Your 6 hidden enemies will depart from your system. All these human beings you see, they have 6 enemies in the mind. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarja. Lust, anger, greed, delusion, ego, and jealousy. These are the 6 enemies hidden in the mind. When the mind becomes luminous, they leave. That is the reason when you sit for meditation, all bad thoughts come at that time. Why? At that time you are at that time consciously removing those thoughts from your mind. So they become very furious. They think that I am living, they are afraid to be homeless. You see, nobody likes to be homeless. Well, I am living with you last 40, 50, 60, 70 years, and all of a sudden you want to throw us out from your system. I don't know, where shall I go? I cannot live outside. That is the reason. All bad thoughts come, we fight a struggle during meditation. So meditation illumines the mind. Meditation helps us to unveil the creative faculty of man. All great achievements of art and science came through meditation. I remember once Swami Jyotisharanandaji said, Swami Brahmananda asked him, why don't you write an article every week? Maharaj, I don't have any ideas. Ideas? Meditate. If you meditate, you will, so many new ideas you will get, you will not be able to handle them. And the Swami wrote in his memoir. Later on, he became the editor of the Prabuddha Bharata. He came to America, in Germany. During Second World War, he was in Germany. Then he moved in this country, I think in Pennsylvania. In Philadelphia, he opened a Vedanta center. Later on, he returned to India. Anyhow, he was a great Swami. He said, through meditation, I learned many things. All great scientists, sculptors, artists, they meditate on their themes. The yogis meditate for bliss and liberation. They dive deep into the innermost recesses of the heart and collect precious spiritual pearls which they share with others. Sri Ramakrishna said, Dub thou, dive deep inside. Some people think meditation is a kind of relaxation. It is not a relaxation. Meditation is a hard work. At that time you are struggling, fighting against your bad tendencies, bad thoughts. It is not an easy thing. Anyway, I remember when I first came in 1971, many hippies would come to Hollywood Temple. And they used to ask me for meditation. So I compiled a book for them, Meditation and Its Method. That was my hippie book. But that book became very successful. It has, I think, 6, 7 American editions, German edition, Spanish edition, Spanish translation. And in India, I think it has 24 or 25 editions of that book. My hippie book. Meditation. What is meditation? Patanjali defined meditation, tatra pratyayeko kotanata dhyanam. Meditation is an uninterrupted flow of thought toward the object of concentration. The Upanishad also guides us tells us various kinds of meditation. Make this bow as an Om is the bow. This individual soul is the arrow. Brahman is the target. Hit it without any mistake. Another Upanishad tells us how to meditate. Make your body is one piece of wood. And pranava, mantra, Om is another piece of wood. And make friction. Then your mind will be luminous. Then you will see God within. Shankara defined meditation. Meditation consists in withdrawing the senses into the mind, and the mind into the indwelling self, the luminous self, and then be one with it. Ramanuja says, an uninterrupted flow of thought toward God is meditation. Rupa Goswami, a disciple of Chaitanya, defined meditation. Rupa guno kira sevade sushtu chintanam dhyanam. Rup. Some people meditate on the divine form. Some people meditate on the divine qualities, purity, renunciation, compassion. Some people meditate on the kira, divine play. I remember when I went to Kansas City many years ago, a Catholic woman came to me and said, Swami, I am attending Mass last 25 years, but I am not getting much joy. I heard that your tradition teaches meditation. Could you teach me how to meditate? Then I told her, you can meditate on the Leela of Christ. Just close your eyes, see Christ is walking through the street. The multitude followed Christ. Christ went to the house of Simon, Peter. Mary Magdalene came. She washed the feet of Lord Jesus with her tears. She wiped the tears with her long hair. She opened the alabaster box, anointed the feet of Jesus. Then Jesus put his 2 hands on her head and blessed her. If you can visualize each scene of this episode of Jesus, you will find that you are 15 minutes you lived with Jesus. You are not in this world. It is called meditation on the Leela, play. Thus you can take various segments of Jesus' life, Ramakrishna's life, Buddha's life, and you can meditate. This meditation is very soothing, very easy. In the Bhagavatam, Krishna asked Uddhava how to meditate non-dual aspect of God. But let's first think of the form, divine form, perhaps Krishna's form, and then concentrate on his face, and then put that face on the blue sky, and then vanish this face into the infinite. And then stop thinking. You will be absorbed in that cosmic consciousness. Swami Vivekananda said, think of a space in your heart, and in the midst of that space, think that a flame is burning. Think of that flame as your own soul, and inside the flame is another effulgent light, and that is the soul of your soul, God. Meditate upon that in the heart. There are many kinds of meditation. There are many ways to reach the truth. It is sometimes confusing, so we need a teacher who can guide us to enter the mysterious realm of the heart. You see, Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutra, Jatha Abhimato Dhyanadva, you can meditate on any object you like. You have full freedom, but be careful. If you meditate on the sensual objects or something, worldly things, you will be caught by Maya. It would be a disaster. So now we shall talk about how Krishna gave instruction to Arjuna regarding meditation. First he says, Rahoshi Sthita. Practice meditation in a solitary place. Solitary place. I went to Minneapolis on Friday. Friday night I had to give a lecture in a Greek Orthodox church on meditation. And at night I was staying in a guest house of a huge apartment complex. I went to bed 11:15. Party begins, just a little outside my window. Till 3:30, party. Noise, and my room, the other devotee was in the other room. He was thinking, how shall I sleep? It is too hard to sleep. But what to do? Perhaps those people are drunk. Just outside, it's a big tennis court and lawn. They're outside. There are nearly 300 apartments in that on the shore of a lake. What to do? Rahoshi, you need a little solitude. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell his devotees, Nirjane gopane bakul huye kado. In solitude, secretly, pray to God with a longing heart. Let yoga be practiced within a cave, protected from the gusty wind, or in a place which is level, pure, free from pebbles, gravel, and fire, undisturbed by the noise of water or market booths, and which is delightful to the mind and not offensive to the eye, says Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Sometimes I ask people, make a shrine in your home. If you have a separate room, fine. If not, give a little corner of your bedroom or living room where you can take rest. That is your meditation corner. You have place for your television, for other things, your office, your computer. Just give a little room to God. You will not be a loser. Next, Krishna says, Ekaki. It is a journey from alone to alone. When you sit for meditation, feel that there is none else except you and your beloved. Sometimes some people go for group meditation. in this country is common. One of our friends told me, Swami, I joined in a dynamic meditation. I said, what is dynamic meditation? Well, there will be a tape and you dance. Dancing meditation. And 1 hour, 2 hours until you are, suppose you are very much depressed. At that time you should join the dancing meditation. Well, dance and dance and dance when your body, legs and whole body exhausted, then you drop on the floor, then you will get quietness, you will be calm. Another walking meditation. I'm going to visit a very rich lady. She had 100 pine trees, 100 pine trees, 100 pine trees on the line. Nearly 1,200 pine trees. And in between her meditation trade. She walks and a group of people follow her and they meditate. That is called walking meditation. Something new. Ekaki, alone. Swami Vivekananda returned from America and introduced meditation at 4 o'clock in the morning. All monks should come to the shrine. Swami Adbhutananda was about to, next morning Swami Adbhutananda packed his clothes and wanted to leave the monastery. Swamiji asked, where are you going? Brother, you have come to America, you have come from America and introduced these rules that 4 o'clock you will have to meditate and you ring the bell. My mind does not go that way. I am leaving. All right, you leave. Then he again called him back. I made these rules for this future generation. He meditates whole night. So he will not have to start meditation at 4 o'clock. So he said, these rules I introduced for the future generation. There should be some rules and regulations, some routine in the monastery. You stay. There should be some exception. Next, Krishna says, Shucho Deshe. The place for meditation must be clean. The shrine or the room which is used for meditation must be orderly and clean. We must make our rooms holy so that you can get good vibration. Unclean, bad odor, it does not bring good feeling inside. Sometimes I ask people, decorate your shrine. Buy good pictures. Put some flowers, burn incense, light the candle. Play a little music. Create an atmosphere so that you can get good mood for meditation. Mood is very important. Sometimes I ask people, tight clothes are not good for meditation. Your blue jeans, no good. Have some loose clothes, and that cloth should be used only for your meditation cloth. Nowadays, people are selling meditation cushion, samadhi cushion. In this country, you can view all kinds of good business. Environment plays an important role on human mind. Create an atmosphere. Next, Krishna says, asana, seat. Have a firm seat, neither too high nor too low. Regarding asana, seat, it is hard to follow Krishna's teaching in America. He was unaware that American sitting style and American knees are different, I sometimes make joke. American knees are manufactured in a different place. You see, from our childhood, we are accustomed to sit cross-legged. American children, they sit on the table and chair. When they eat, when they study, they always table and chair. We do not have that kind of system. Now some are developing that thing. I remember once I was telling Swami Pavitranandaji was taking bath early in the morning. So I was in Hollywood. I was then in 72. I said, Maharaj, you are not supposed to take bath before 10 o'clock. The yogis do not take bath before 10. Why? I said, the yogis practice pranayama. If they take cold water, you will not be able to do pranayama. You will get cold in your lungs. Then he told me, you yogis have never visited America. Here, everything is controlled. That water, what heat you want in your body, everything, this knob controls everything. Don't worry. In America, everything is under control. Krishna says, first spread kusha grass, then a deer skin, and then a cloth over it. But now in America, you can have various kinds, as I already mentioned, meditation cushion, samadhi cushion, you can get many things. Find out a seat which is complete, which is comfortable for you. You can use couch with handrest or cushion or carpet, but don't use lazy boy chair. I used to tease one of our devotees in California. You want to realize God reclining on lazy boy chair, smoking cigarette, drinking coffee, watching TV. That is the way you want God. Well, exactly, Swami. That is the way I want God. Brahma Sutra says, Ashino Shambhavat. Meditation is possible only in the sitting posture. Standing, you need balancing when you are standing position. Or if you lying down, you will go to sleep. So, sitting is the best thing. And some people, do you know what do they do? Some go and learn some yoga and they sit on the lotus posture. Then it is not easy to sit in lotus posture for a long time. You will get aches on your knees and muscles will be strained. Your mind will be on your knees, not on God, I can tell you. It is better to sit in a comfortable way so that your mind will remain in God and you can forget your body consciousness. That is the only thing necessary. Samakaya shirang griva. Shiro gribam. Hold your body, neck and head erect and still. Many people in this country have back problems and suffer from aches and pain. Once I went to a chiropractor who told me how muscles and nerves become twisted and tight due to wrong postures. If the posture is straight, prana moves freely, which is good, and blood circulation also flows evenly. And if the backbone is straight, kundalini can rise steadily. You can experiment it through the garden hose. If there are too many twists in the hose, the water does not flow properly. But if the hose is straight, you get tremendous force of water. That is the way this human body goes. Next, Krishna says, Sampreksha nasikagram dishashavalokayan. Gaze steadily at the tip of the nose without looking around. Some people concentrate between the eyebrows, some on the tip of the nose, some on the picture, some close their eyes and concentrate on the heart. When Swami Vivekananda was a young boy, he used to put a dot mark on the wall and concentrate. He will not think anything else, only that dot mark. That is the way he used to experiment his concentration. Perhaps you have seen that some Hare Krishna people they have the mark on the forehead, on the tip of the nose. It is not for their beauty, it is just for practicing concentration, that meditate on the tip of your nose. Some people try to meditate between the eyebrows. They get headache. For the reason one needs a guru. Sri Ramakrishna asked him, could you bring a picture for me? A mother bird hatching her eggs. Her eyes are open, but she is not seeing anything. Her whole mind is on her eggs. I like to see a picture. Can you draw a picture like that? Him could not do it. After Sri Ramakrishna was passing away, he made a picture according to the instruction of the master. That picture is still in his home. We are working on M's book. I brought a negative of that picture, so I want to reproduce this picture in this book. You will see. Eyes are open, but not seeing anything. Whole mind of that mother bird on her eggs, which she is hatching. So your eyes are open, you are seeing outside, but your whole mind is absorbed inside, God. A yogi made a remark, if you shut the eyes completely, you will fall asleep. If you keep them open, you will see all around. First one is Thomas, second one is Roger. So the middle path is mentioned. Ardho nimilito nayana, half open. Sometimes some yogis practice trataka. Trataka means the gaze on one point without blinking the eyes. Then when the eyes muscles are strained, tears come. Then close your eyes and think of your chosen deity. Krishna mentioned, if you really want to practice meditation, be careful about food. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chestasya karmashu, yukta sapna babodasya. Don't eat too much or too little. Don't sleep too long or too short. Don't work too much or too little. Follow the middle path. In this connection, we should follow what Buddha said. Here is a musical instrument, sitar or veena or guitar. If it is too tight, you will not get the right sound. It is too loose, you will not get the right sound. You will have to tune that knob of your musical instrument right, so that you get the right sound. Similarly, whatever your body can absorb, take that. Food is very important. If you overeat, it is not possible for you to practice meditation. Here some people say, Swami, after dinner I meditate. It is not possible. In India, we always meditate in empty stomach. Before lunch, before breakfast, before dinner. Krishna tells us some of the mental disciplines, restrain activities of the mind and the senses. According to the yogis, the mind passes through 5 stages. First, restless mind. Second, lazy mind. Third, distracted mind. Fourth, concentrated mind. Fifth, controlled mind. In the first 3 stages, meditation is not possible. The mind is restless. Arjuna said, turbulent is restless, turbulent, powerful and obstinate. As it is difficult to control the wind, so is the mind. Krishna replied, doubtless, O Arjuna, the mind is restless and hard to control, but by practice and by detachment, it can be restrained. Then Krishna says, Shanoi Shanoi Uparamed, don't overdo. Go slowly. We are taught today 15 minutes, 1 week. Next week, 20 minutes. Next week, 25 minutes. Next week, 30 minutes. In this way, increase. First day, if you try to meditate 3 hours, 4 hours, it will not work. Your body will react, mind will react. First day, if you try to lift 600 pounds weight, you're going to do it. Slowly, the weightlifters increase the weight slowly. Your body will get accustomed. Similarly, meditation, you must get used to it. It takes time. I sometimes make joke that the American people lost their patience when they invented instant coffee. Here people want everything instant. Instant samadhi, instant. It does not work that way. It takes time. Next, Krishna says, Nirashi, reduce your selfish desires. Why can you not meditate? Because of desires. Too many desires take your mind from God to other objects. Next, he says, Prashantatma, maintain the equanimity of the mind. When trial comes, tribulation, just see that. Take the position of a seer, observer. Time solves many problems. If you do not do anything, you will think problem will be solved. Somebody suggested our President Obama, this what is called the recession, all these things. But don't do anything. The society, the economic system will take care of itself. But not always. Aparigraha. Don't possess too many things. I remember one of my friends, one person has 4 cars. 18 credit cards. If I have too much money, what shall I do? Moving around in the shopping mall. Too many desires. Restless. Bigatobhi, be fearless. Man lives in fear. Brahmachari brute sthitaha. Practice purity, contentment. Machitta. Atmasangasta manokritva na kinchidopi chintayat. Once the mind is established in the self, he should think of nothing else. What happens when the mind touches the Atman? Krishna says, the light of a lamp does not flicker in a windless place. That is the simile which describes a yogi of one-pointed mind who meditates upon the Atman. Now Krishna tells us the result of meditation. Yogo bhavati dukkha. Meditation will destroy your pain, suffering, agony forever. Tushyati. When through the practice of yoga, the mind ceases its restless movements, he realizes the Atman. It satisfies him entirely. Now that he holds the Atman, he knows that this treasure above all others, faith so certain, shall never be shaken by heaviest sorrow. Shanti Nibbana Paramam, he attains crowning peace of Nibbana. Whether you are making progress in spiritual life or not, how do you know? What is the sign? Bhagavatam gave this beautiful analogy. Tushti pushti kshutpayo anughasham. Suppose you are fasting 3 days. No food, no drink, you are very hungry, very thirsty. Somebody brought a plate of food and a glass of water for you. Seeing that food, you feel satisfaction. Wonderful. Now I shall eat. Second, you have not eaten yet. Second, the moment you eat, tushti, pushti. Pushti means nourishment, strength. The moment you eat, you get nourishment in the body, you get strength. Second, Third stage, Kshutpayo Anughasham. Last 3 days, you have stomach spasm. Spasm, hunger pain, spasm, tremendous spasm. Cessation of that spasm. That spasm goes away. So 3 things will happen when you meditate and practice spiritual disciplines. First, satisfaction. Second, strength. Third, cessation of pain. Krishna, if you really want to know more about meditation on the Gita, please read the 6th chapter of the Gita, that is Dhyana Yoga. Krishna told many other things. I just told you in brief that how a yogi sees God in everything, in every being, and this world become heaven to him. Thank you. Bhadram karneiभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः विषीमदेवहितं यदायुः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. May we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is good. May we be strong in limbs and body, sing your praise and enjoy the life allotted to us by you. Om, peace, peace, peace be told.